Our next storyteller is very familiar to people who are patrons of the Cherry. He's been on this stage many times. Mr. Michael Lojkovic.
Yay! Shine on me, oh, shine on me. Let the light from the lighthouse shine on me. It was a dark and stormy afternoon when my friend Dan approached me in the halls of the theater where I was studying acting. I was 22 years old. It was 1982, and Dan was about 10 years older than I was. He was the technical director of the theater. He designed all the lights. He built all the sets that the shows took place. And he had one question for me that afternoon. Would I care to accompany him on an adventure that evening? To which I, without hesitation, said yes. Now, I knew the folklore of Dan in the theater. Every year, on the darkest and stormiest night of the year, he would choose 2 students to accompany him to drive down south and climb the Point Sur lighthouse. It had to be the darkest and stormiest night of the year because it was forbidden. We couldn't be detected in our adventure. So that night, another actor friend of mine, a fella named David, who was a little rough around the edges, more so than me, met Dan in the parking lot of the theater. We climbed into his little truck. Dan was at the wheel, I was in the middle, and David was on the passenger side. We started down the road, going down Highway 1. The rain was slashing, the wind was howling, and I soon realized there was nobody else on the road that night. We were the only ones crazy enough to be out there in this slop. Around Bixby Bridge, Dan held onto the wheel with one hand and pulled a flask out of his pocket and said, "It's time for provisions, boys." At the same time, David, on my right, whipped out a joint and lit it. Now, me being in the middle, the joint went from right to left, the flask went from left to right, and I took an extra toke and an extra sip every time it passed me. I soon realized that I was ripped out of my skull. Dan pulled the truck over above Lighthouse Flats. We climbed a small fence. He grabbed 2 ropes from the back of the cab, and he held a flashlight as well. We hopped the fence, and we started down the pasture. I soon realized that these dark masses that I kept seeing were the cows huddled against the storm, probably wondering where the hell these 3 aliens came from. We got to the base of Point Sur, and we started going up the small road that was full of potholes and somewhat eroded, climbed another fence with barbed wire on it. I kind of don't remember much after that until we reached the top of Point Sur. Dan huddled us over by the lighthouse residence, which of course was boarded up and shuttered. It was abandoned. The light was on an automatic pilot, and that's when Dan told us it rotated every 17 seconds. Now, his plan that night, as he told us, was to throw those 2 ropes over the railing of the lighthouse, and one at a time, we were to climb it. One goes up, comes down, the next one goes up, comes down, and so we walked the little path down to the hill, which was where the Point Sur Lighthouse was located. Now, the lighthouse was built in the 1880s sometime. It stood on a hill all by itself, and the wind, like I said, was howling. It was like a gale. It was like a hurricane. I didn't know what I was doing there, to be honest. And Dan took him a couple tries. He threw the rope over the railing, finally got it. David held on to one rope side, I held on to the other, and Dan rappelled going up and came back down. David went up, came back down, and then it was my turn. I rappelled, going up, trying to remember, as Dan's instructions told us, every 17 seconds that light revolves. So get over that railing, and 16, 17, I hopped over the railing and the beacon just hit me full on force. I held onto the railing, and as it passed, I went for a celebratory walk on the catwalk. I was terrified, I was exhilarated. About 4 years later, I was hit with something. My dad died, and I didn't know how to process that grief. At the same time, a couple months, weeks later, my girlfriend of 3 years dumped me. I was also cast in a play where I was a down-and-out loser junkie. And after rehearsal one night, I came home to my empty apartment, feeling like this was the darkest night of my soul. And I slashed my wrists, and I swallowed pills, and I ended up in a hospital in Salinas on a 72-hour hold because I had tried to fight the paramedics. The doctor told me that I had two choices. Either I get with the program, or in 72 hours I would be transferred to a state hospital. I refused. The clock ticked. On the third morning, the nurse brought in the breakfast tray. I was about to shake my head no, and she said, 2 friends stopped by, but they weren't allowed in. One of them left a postcard for you. I looked at the postcard to see who it was from, and I recognized Dan's scrawl right away. And it read, Mike, don't take yourself so seriously. What? How dare? Don't take yourself so seriously. And I realized that was my reset button. I turned the postcard over, Dan's postcard over, and I saw the picture. The Pointser Lighthouse. Lift me up, oh, lift me up. Let the light from the lighthouse lift me up.
Michael Lojkovic.